How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Samachay, Daf 65 of Masechta Sanhedrin. Friends, your friends, yo friends. Today's Daf. Today's Daf. I don't know what to tell you about today's Daf. It's about sorcery, which is, I guess, to begin with, a kind of like out there topic, and I would say like, I don't know. I struggled to like get into like a like flow in this stuff. It's like I don't really know how to. I guess it's just sorcery-ish. I don't know what to say. All right, so we're gonna start in Daf Samach Eyom Aleph all the way at the top at the Mishnah. Baal Ov. So there's Ov and Yidoni, which are different types of like hocus pocus, talking to like spirits kind of things. They're not allowed. So Baal Ov is a piece of medaber mishichyo, v'Yidoni is a medaber b'fiv. Hare elu b'skila. So if you do Ov or Yidoni, you're chayiv skila. Now, what's Ov? Okay, I don't know. I don't get it. Even if I described it correctly, I'd probably still be wrong. I'd probably have to see it to really understand it. Something to do with conjuring up some kind of a spirit and it talking out of your armpit. And Yidoni is you take a bone of this like animal called Yidoni and you stick the bone in your mouth and it just starts yapping. Chaver? I can't give you much more details. I mean, it's so abstract. I feel like I would have to kind of like see it to kind of understand it. But I'm just like parroting these descriptions. So now, if you do these things, you chayiv skila, and if you like ask, hey man, can you talk out of your armpit with a spirit? So requesting the service is a lav, and doing the service is skila. Okay, so over here, I assume is a reference back to, it's a reference to this Mishnah that we just read, but also back to Daf Nun Gimel Min Aleph, where it mentions the Elu and Eskalin, and it mentions Baal Ov v'Yidoni, Yuchayev Skila. Now, in Masechta Kresos, where it lists all these things that would be Chayev a Korban Chatas if you do it by accident, so then, one second, yeah. If you do it by accident, you chayiv chatas. It only mentions Ov, but it leaves out Yidoni. What's pshat? How come over here it mentions Ov and Yidoni, but in Kresis it only mentions Ov, it leaves out Yidoni? So again, Maishna Hocha, how come over here the Katoni Bal Ov v'Yidoni mentions Ov and Yidoni, Maishna Gabi Kresis, but how come in Masechta Kresis the Katoni Bal Ov v'Shayre Yidoni? It only mentions Ov, but it leaves out Yidoni. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Ha'ov v'Shneim Belav Echod Nemru. So Rabbi Yochanan says, well, because if you do both of them at once, you will be chayav only once. Meaning, so if I understand correctly, if you do Ov by accident, you be chayav achatas. If you do Yidoni by accident, you be chayav achatas. But if you do Ov and Yidoni, you'd only be chayav one chatas and not two chatases. And therefore, it didn't mention both of them because technically, if you do both of them, you're not chayiv separately. You'd only be chayiv oncely. So therefore, it doesn't mention both of them. All right? Since if you do both of them, you'd only be chayiv one korban, so it only mentions one of them. Okay. Rish Lakish Amar Yidoni Lefi Shein Bo Maaseh. Rish Lakish says no, you're bichlal not chayiv a korban chatas for Yidoni because you're not doing anything. You're taking a bone, sticking it in your mouth, and then the bone just starts yapping. You just stand there while it yaps. Okay. So therefore, there's no korban chatas because there's no maaseh. Now, according to Rabbi Yochanan, so you're chayav a korban chatas for Ov, you're chayav a korban chatas for Yidoni, but if you do both of them, you're only chayav one. So therefore I mentioned only one of them. Okay, but why choose to mention Ov? It could have just as easily said Yidoni. Kilu is just choosing one of them, right? Because if you do both of them, you only chayav once. So I mentioned one of them. But okay, why choose to mention Ov versus Yidoni? Mishum de Pasach Beikra. Well, because in the Pasach it first mentions Ov and then Yidoni, so we mentioned if we're only going to mention one, so we'll mention the first one. Okay. No offense to Yidoni. Just happens to be Ov is mentioned first. Rish Lakish my time of the Omer Rabbi Yechanan. How come Rish Lakish disagrees with Rabbi Yechanan? Right? Apparently Rish Lakish, meaning Rish Lakish holds that Yidoni, there's no Korban Chatas Bichlal because there's no Maaseh. But even if there were to be a Korban Chatas, he would still disagree with Rabbi Yochanan. Meaning Rabbi Yochanan says that if you do according to Rabbi Yochanan, you chayav a Korban Chatas for Ov, you chayav a Korban Chatas for Yidoni, but if you do both of them, you're not chayav twice, you chayav once. Rish Lakish disagrees with that and says, no, if I agreed with Rabbi Yochanan that you're chayav for Ov and that you're chayav for Yidoni, well then if you do them both, you'd be chayav twice. Now I disagree. I say that by Yidoni you're not chayav at all. But again, if I were to hold like Rabbi Yochanan that you're chayav for Ov, you're chayav for Yidoni, so if you do both, you'd be chayav twice. Because by the time of Rabbi Yochanan, how come he disagrees with Rabbi Yochanan, even in Rabbi Yochanan's theory? Because Amar Papa says, Papa Chalukin ein b'misa. Because it says, Uval Ov v'Yidoni. What does the pasuk say? Kiya b'em Ov o Yidoni. Most yumsu be'evan yigimu osam t'meim bam. Right? That the pasuk says either Ov or Yidoni, implying that if you do both of them together, you'd be chayiv skila for both of them. Right? Each one would be considered separately. So then we would apply that to korbanis and say that you'd be chayiv separately for the korbanis. I don't know. You'd be chayiv skila twice, but I don't know. I guess since the pasuk mentions them separately, so since they're mentioned separately for skila, I would apply the same to korbanis and say that you'd be chayiv a korban for each of them if you do them by accident, I think. For Rabbi Yochanan, chaluka de lav shma chaluka de misa lo shma chaluka. Whereas Rabbi Yochanan says, no, in order to be chayiv two korban chatases, there would have to be this separation of Ova and Yidoni by the lav, not by the skila. But here the separation is by the skila. Sorry if this is not clear. I'll be honest, I'm not super clear. But that seems to be the concept, I think. Okay. I'm kind of gonna not be clear for the rest of this Amud, just for transparency. It's a weird, the flow is not flowy at all. Okay. So Rabbi Yochanan, my time below Amar Rish Lakish. How come Rabbi Yochanan disagrees with Rish Lakish? Rish Lakish makes a point that he says, well, Yidoni, you're not chayiv a korban chatas for bichlal because there's no maaseh. So wouldn't Rabbi Yochanan agree with that, right? Lav shem bo maaseh, you wouldn't bring a korban. If there's no maaseh, you're not going to bring a korban. So Omar loch masnisen dechreisos Rabbi Akiva hi de Omar lo ba'inon maaseh. Where am I? What? Okay, fine. My time lo Rish Lakish. How come Rabbi Yochanan does not hold Reish Lakish? So Omer Lach Masnisen. I confused myself. 1 second. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. It's just kind of I find this stuff confusing. I don't know why, I just find it particularly confusing. Anyways, so Rish Lakish had said that you're not chayiv for Yidoni, so Yidoni is left out in Kresus because there's no Maaseh, and therefore you're left out. Whereas the rabbis say, yeah, but the thing is that Mishnah, I'm not the rabbis, Rabbi Yochanan says, yeah, but the thing is that Mishnah in Kresus is according to Rabbi Akiva. And Rabbi Akiva, actually, his opinion is actually you don't need a Maaseh, right? So therefore, don't tell me that it's a lot, there's no Maaseh. The author of the Mishnah is Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva doesn't require a Maaseh, so that's kind of irrelevant. So again, where am I? Okay, Rabbi Yochanan, my time lo Amar Rish Lakish. How come Rabbi Yochanan disagrees with Rish Lakish? Right, Rish Lakish says Yidoni doesn't have a Maaseh, therefore you're not chayiv korban chatas at all. So on my lach, Rabbi Yochanan would respond, look, Masnisen the Kresus Rabbi Akiva. The author of the Mishnah in Kresus is Rabbi Akiva. The Amar lo ba'inon maaseh, and Rabbi Akiva says we don't need a maaseh. So therefore, therefore Rabbi Akiva would say that you would be chayiv a korban chatas in principle because you don't actually need a maaseh according to Rabbi Akiva. But Rish Lakish would respond to that and say, wait, 1 second. Rish Lakish should respond and say, Rabbi Yochanan, I disagree. Look, Nihidilo Ba'i Rabbi Akiva might say, Rabba. Sure, maybe Rabbi Akiva doesn't require a major Maise, but Maise Zuta Ba'i requires something. And here, by Yidoni, literally you just stand there doing nothing while the bone is yapping out of your mouth. So therefore, Rish Lakish says, even if you say that the Mishnah is Rabbi Akiva in Kreisus, still you would not be chayav a korban in this case because you're literally doing zilch. Megadef my se ika frek de gemare. But 1 second, in the Mishnah in Kreisus, it says that you chayav a korban chatas for megadef. But what maise is there by megadef? Akimas vasav have maise. Well, you're at least moving your lips in that one. Balov my maise ika. What maise is there when it comes to ov? Akashas ra'osav have maise. Apparently, to make the spirit talk out of your armpits, you have to move around your hands and clap them around or something, so that it would be considered the maise. Now, frek the gemara. Because here's the thing, that in Kreisus, the rabbis argue when it comes to Megadef. And they say, right, so Rabbi Akiva says Megadef would be chayav a korban chatos. The Rabbanon say that you would not be chayav a korban chatos by Megadef. However, they do agree that by Ov, you would be chayav a korban chatos. Now, Ve'atanya, but we learn in a brisa, Enu chayiv ela al davar sheish bo maise. You only be chayiv for avodah zarah by davar sheish bo maise. Could go in zibuach, slaughtering, kitur, burning, nisuch, libating, shachavaya, bowing downing. Rish Lakish says Shlakish mantanish tachavaya. Who's the one who says it's tachavaya? Rabbi Akiva damar lo beinan maise. That bowing down, which isn't a major maise, it's just like bowing over. That's specifically Rabbi Akiva, because Rabbi Akiva says you don't need a major maise. Bowing down is enough. So if we're saying that bowing down is Rabbi Akiva, so then I would think that, right, meaning and the rabbis would disagree with that and say it's not a maaseh. So I would think that clapping your hands, simply clapping your hands for Ov would specifically be according to Rabbi Akiva, but not according to the Rabbanan. The rabbis would say that would not be considered a maaseh. And therefore you would not be chayav a korban. Yet, they don't disagree there. They seem to agree that you would be chayav a korban chatas by Ov. Rabbi Yochanan says, Afilu Temer Rabbanon, whereas Rabbi Yochanan says that no, the shtachavah could even be according to the rabbis, Kfifas Komoso the Rabbanon Avi Maise, because bowing down would be considered a Maise. Okay, and then I guess that would explain Ov as well. Now Hashalu Rish Lakish Kfifas Komoso the Rabbanon Lo Avi Maise, but now according to Rish Lakish, we're saying that bowing down is specifically according to Rabbi Akiva, but the rabbis would disagree and say bowing down is not a maise. Well, then Akashas Ra'osav de Baal Ov have a maise. Then how could we say that the clapping of the Ov would be considered a maise? If according to Rish Lakish, bowing down is not a maise according to the Rabbanan, so then clapping your hands for the Ov should also not be a maise according to the Rabbanan. Yet they seem to say you would be chayav a korban chatas. So kikamer Rish Lakish nami the Rabbi Akiva. Well, when Rish Lakish is saying that, explains that according to the Mishnah you're chayav for Ov, for clapping, that's also specifically according to Rabbi Akiva. But aval Rabbanon lo, but not according to the rabbis, it would not be considered a maise. If that's the case, yotze megadef uval Ov mi ba'alev. Then it would say that the rabbis disagree with both Megadef as well as Baal Ov, but they seem to agree, right? They seem to agree though, meaning they should disagree by Megadef and Baal Ov, but they seem to agree, however, by Baal Ov, that you would be chayav a korban chatos. Only by Megadef, it's no maise, and therefore there's no chatos. So Elo Amar Ula, rather says Ula, b'mekato l'shade. Okay, Baal Ov is not talking about clapping, it's talking about where you're burning for a demon. The Rava says, well, burning for a demon would be considered avodah zarah, and that's considered part of avodah zarah, and we already mentioned avodah zarah there. So Elam Rava rather says, where you burn in order to conjure up spirits or something. So, wait, but isn't Mikater L'chaber chover chover, and chover chover apparently is only a lav? Okay, it is chover chover, but Vatorah am chover chover b'skila. Yeah, but the Torah says chover chover is actually skila, and I guess if you do it by accident, you'd be chayiv a korban chatos. Okay, that was a very, very spaghetti kind of stuff, but I guess basically the gist of it is the machlokas between Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish, that Rabbi Yochanan says that we leave out Yudoni there because you only chayiv for one of them, and Rish Lakish says it's because there's no Maise, and then we get into whole spaghetti of trying to understand Lav She'ein Bo Maise and what the definitions are there and how that applies to Machlokas, Rabbi Yochanan, and Rish Lakish, and it's really confusing, but that's somehow in all that mess is that Machlokas. Sorry I can't make it clearer, I think it's just extremely messy. Tanar Rabbanan, I was taught, Chover Chover, Echad Chover Gadol, Echad Chover Katan. Okay, so when it comes to Chover Chover, regardless if you're like gathering together, I think like big like animals and stuff, yeah, massive chayes v'emes gedolos chaver shkatzim or masim. I don't know if you're somehow conjuring together like animals or even like whether they're big animals or like small like shkatzim, even snakes and scorpions. Or Abai says Abai ilkach haman did somid zibur v'akrava, somebody who like conjures together a bee and what's that thing called when it like a scorpion? Avagav michavin. Even though the intention is just that these bee and the scorpion shouldn't harm anybody, still also because you're not allowed to like use hocus pocus. Rabbi Yochanan says, Rabbi Yochanan, Mashna dichfifas kolmaso, the Rabbanan have a maise. According to Rabbi Yochanan, who had said that according to the Rabbanan, bowing down would be considered a maise, v'akimas vas of lo have a maise, but they would say that moving your lips by Megadef is not a Maisa, so why is bowing down a Maisa, but moving your lips is not? Well, the thing is, by Megadef, there is another factor there where it's also dependent on your intention in your heart. Reb Zera asked the question, we say that Edim Zomim doesn't have a Maisa, but aren't they moving their lips? That has nothing to do with their heart, it's to do with what they said with their lips. So it should be a Maisa. Edim Zomim is different, because Edim Zomim is about what they say, and voice, there's nothing tangible there. V'kol Rabbi Yochanan lav Maisu, but 1 second, according to the Rabbi Yochanan, your voice is not a Maisa. V'aitmar it stated, Chasma b'kol v'nhiga b'kol, Rabbi Yochanan Amar Chayev, right? So for example, if you have right, it says, Osachsum shor b'disho, right? While an ox is threshing, you have to allow it to eat. But if every time it goes down to eat, you yell at it and force it to, kind of scare it out of eating, so that's usr. You're going to be chayiv for that. I mean, even though you didn't put a physical, thing on its mouth to prevent it from eating, but you keep on in practice prevent it from eating, as well as I think it's talking about shor v'chomer. I think applying with the shor v'chomer yachtav, if you use your voice to move them along, also that would be also. So a voice, according to Rabbi Yochanan, right, saying chayiv, you'd be chayiv for that. Rish Lakish amar patur, Rish Lakish says patur. So apparently voice, according to Rabbi Yochanan, is enough for you to be chayiv. Where am I? Rabbi Yochanan amar chayiv. Rabbi Yochanan says chayiv because akimas piv ave maise, because the moving of his mouth is a maise, and the fact that it's with your voice doesn't matter. Rish Lakish amar patur, akimas piv lo ave maise. So Rish Lakish says patur because moving your lips would not be considered a maise. Rather says Rav Shiny Edim Zomim Hov Yeshna Beria. No, Edim Zomim is different because they're talking about what they saw, and what they saw is sort of untangible. That Ov is some kind of spirit speaking from like your armpits and your like finger joints and stuff. Yidoni is you put this like bone of this yedua animal in your mouth, and the bone starts yapping. We have a contradiction. That the ov will be like a voice from the ground. So it's not that the spirit comes out and speaks from your armpit, it speaks from the ground. That is just speaking from the ground. No, it's speaking from your armpits. Tashma that when Shaul went to go speak to a necromancer, she says to him, Elohim ra'isi olim min ha'aretz, I saw these angels coming from the ground. My lab, so isn't that they heard them? She heard them from the ground. Lo, no, they went into her armpits and was talking from there. Taner Rabbanan the Rabbis taught, Bal'ov is that Bal'ov echad amayla b'zchuru v'echad anishal b'gulgoles. That ov is whether you like lift up the spirit from the ground and like lie it on its penis, or whether you find a skull on the ground and just start using the skull for ov stuff. Ma bin zelaza. What's the difference between if you like are mala b'zchuro or nishal b'gulgoles? Mala b'zchuro ino ola kedarko. Well, when the spirit comes up from the ground, so then it doesn't come up head first; it comes up feet first. And also it won't come out of the ground on Shabbos. Nishal b'gulgoles, but if you ask from a skull that you find lying on the ground, ola kedarko, it does come out of the ground in its proper way, I guess head first, ola b'Shabbos, and does come out of the ground on Shabbos, but fact the Gemara, ola, what do you mean comes out of the ground? Where's it going to? Akami manach, I thought it's already lying on the ground. Ela ona kedarko, it answers normally, I guess, bona b'Shabbos, and also answers on Shabbos. Vavshelazo shal Turnus Rufus Arashis Rabbi Kiva, and Turnus Rufus Arashis asked this to Rabbi Kiva. Amilo umayom miyomayim. He asked Turnus Rufus Arashis asked Rabbi Kiva, what's so special about Shabbos? Amilo umagvar miguvrin. To which Rabbi Kiva said, what's so special about you? Why are you the general? Amalei de Mari Tzave. Well, because my master, the Caesar, I guess, decided so. Commanded so, decided so. Shabbos nami demari tzave. Well, also Shabbos. Also, God says Shabbos is special. To which Turnus Rufus says, "This is what I'm saying. How do you actually know that today is Shabbos? What, have you never made a mistake in counting 7 days? That the Sabbation river will prove it, because like during the week it's like all choppy and rough and stuff, but on Shabbos it chills out. Bal'ov yochiach. Also, Bal'ov will prove it, because it comes up. It doesn't come up from on Shabbos. Kivoshal aviv yochiach. Also, your father's grave will prove it. She'ein mala oshim b'Shabbos, because the whole week there's smoke coming out of your evil father's grave, but on Shabbos there's no smoke coming out of your evil father's grave. Amlo biziso biyashto v'kilalto. To which Turnus Rufus Arasha says to Rabbi Kiva that you have disgraced, embarrassed, and cursed, I guess, my father. Shoal ov. What's Shoal Ov? Hanu v'dorei shalamesim. So the pasuk says v'Shoal Ov yidoni v'dorei shalamesim. But isn't Shoal Ov the same thing as dorei shalamesim? Conjuring up the dead. So dorei shalamesim k'Netanya. No, actually, conjuring up the dead is like we learn in the Brisa v'dorei shalamesim. What's v'dorei shalamesim? Ze'amariv atzmo, somebody who starves himself olich v'lam bebeis hakvaris, and then goes for a shluf in the beis hakvaris, in the cemetery in Wellwood. So that the impure spirits should rest upon him. And when Rabbi Kiva would reach this pasuk of v'dorei shalamesim, he would cry. What would he cry about? Well, if a person stars himself and goes to the Beis HaKvaris so that an impure spirit will rest upon him, sure enough, the impure spirit rests upon him. So I would think, logically, that somebody who fasts and wants that the spirit of purity should rest on him, that should also work. But Ma'aseh, what can I do? Shavonusenu garmu lanu, that our sins have caused us to be unable to receive this spirit of purity. Shneimar, as the Apostle says, Ki mavonosechem hayu mavdilim benechem levein Elokechem, that your sins separate between you and your God. Amarava says, Rava ibot tzadike baru alma. If the righteous wanted, they could create they can create worlds. Shenemar ki avonosechem hayu mavdilin v'gomer. Wait, what? Yeah, I guess. But I guess what the sins prevent this from happening. Wait 1 second. Yeah, I guess if not for the sins, then they would be able to like create worlds. I guess like God creates worlds. Rave Baragaver, Rave Taka created a person using the Sefer Yetzirah. Shaja the comment to Reb Zera and sent this person to Reb Zera. Reb Zera was speaking to this creation, and this creation was not responding. Omarle, to which Reb Zera figured it out. He says, min chavraya at, you were created by somebody else. Go back to your dirt. Reb Chanina Reb Ushaya Abu Yazve Komayle Shabbos of Aski b'Sefer Yetzirah. Reb Chanina and Reb Ushaya every Erev Shabbos they would learn the Sefer Yetzirah umibulu igla tilsa, and they would create using the Sefer Yetzirah a geshmak calf v'achlilei, and I guess they would eat it for the Shabbos Suda. Wow. So the Rabbi talking about ma'onin. What's ma'onin? Reb Shimon says, Reb Shimon says, "Amaver shiva mine zchur al ayin." He takes semen from, I guess, 7 types of species and just like puts it in his eyes and does magic that way somehow. Yuck. Chacham say somebody who like does these like visual tricks. Rabbi Kiva says, it's a person who's like trying to like calculate, hours and times. And he says, Yom Yafilotses. Today is an auspicious day to go out. Tomorrow Yafilikach is an auspicious day to buy stuff. That on Erev Shvius the wheat is good. Ikur meyos rose. Uproot legumes so that they don't go bad. Menachesh is somebody says, oh no, his pita fell out of his mouth. That's bad. His staff fell out of his hand. His son is calling him from behind him. Ooh, yikes. Orev korilo, a raven is calling to him. A deer stopped him on the way. A snake is to his right, or a fox is to his left. Al taschil bi, don't start with me to collect the taxes. Shachrisu, I guess, or it's the morning. Now is not a good time. Rosh Chodeshu, it's Rosh Chodesh, that's a bad omen. Motzei Shabbasu, it's Saturday night, no good. I don't know, some people who do some kind of hocus pocus with weasels and birds and fish and oy vavoy.